Hello everyone, welcome back to IAM Technos. In today's video, we are going to learn about IAM user groups in AWS. So what are IAM user groups? IAM user groups are collection of IAM users. When you assign permissions to a group, all users in that group get those permissions. This helps you manage access efficiently. So instead of assigning permissions to individual users one by one, you can just assign them to a group. Now, why should we use IAM user groups? Firstly, centralized management. IAM user groups allows you to manage permissions for multiple users from one place instead of assigning them individually to each user. Next is consistency. When users are part of a group, they automatically receive the same set of permissions. This ensures that everyone with a similar role or responsibility has the same level of access, reducing the chances of misconfigurations. Finally, scalability. As your organization grows, managing access through user groups make it easy to onboard or offboard users. You simply add or remove users from a group without needing to reconfigure their permissions individually. Now let's see how to create an IAM user group. Start by signing into AWS Management Console. Once you are logged in, navigate to the IAM service from the search bar. On the IAM dashboard, click on User Groups in the sidebar. Then click on Create Group. Give your group a name, something that reflects the role of the users like developers, admins, or read-only users. You can choose Add Users at this stage, but for this demo, we will skip that and add them later. Now let's attach permissions by selecting the policies you want this group to have. You can choose from AWS managed policies. For example, let's go for Amazon EC2 read-only access. Enable it and click on Create a User Group. And your IAM user group is now created. Let's add users to this group now. Click on the group you just created. Under Users tab, click Add Users. Select the users you wanted to add. Since this group is for developers, I'm selecting users whose username contains dev. And I had created these users beforehand. If you're not sure how to create an IAM users, I have already made a detailed video on that. I have added the link to that video in the description below. Now, once you have selected the users, click Add Users. These users now automatically inherit all the permissions associated with this IAM user group. If you mistakenly added a user, you can simply select that user, click on Remove, and confirm the action. You can also add permissions after the creation of user group. To do so, go to Permissions tab. For example, if you would like to add Cloud9 permissions, click on Add Permissions, then Attach Policies. Search for AWS Cloud9 Administrator Policy. Enable it and click on Attach Policies. And you can see this policy is now reflecting under the Permissions tab. Similarly, you can assign an inline policy. So if you have already watched my previous video on how to add an inline policy in the IAM users video, you can skip this part as the process is same for both IAM users and IAM user groups. So an inline policy is a custom policy that is inserted directly into a user group and cannot be reused like managed policies. It is typically used when you want to create a specific permissions for an IAM user group. To add an inline policy, click on Create Inline Policy. In the policy editor, you can choose between Visual Editor or JSON. If you choose the Visual Editor, select the permissions you want to attach, such as S3 actions or EC2 actions. If you choose the JSON editor, you can write or paste your custom JSON policy. I am copying a custom policy that allows users to view or describe all the EC2 instances in the AWS account, but does not permit them to modify, start, stop, or launch instances. Once the policy is reviewed and free of errors, click Next. Provide a name for the policy such as EC2, describe instances policy, and then click on Create Policy. The inline policy will now be attached to the IAM user group, and the group members will have the specified permissions. Let me show you something that often confuses beginners when working with IAM policies in AWS. If you look at attached entities column, you will see that for the managed policies like EC2 read-only access and the Cloud9 administrator, the value shows 1. Okay, which means the policies are currently attached to one entity, which is user groups. But for the inline policy named EC2 describe instance policy, it shows 0. Now, a common question that comes up is, why does it show 0 even though we just created and attached this inline policy to our user group? Let's understand why. See, managed policies are independent policy objects. AWS treats these policies like a reusable documents. So when you attach, AWS logs how many entities are using this policy. That's why you see the number here. However, the inline policies work differently. They are embedded or inserted directly into the identity like a note written inside the group's own folder. So AWS does not treat them as a reusable or separate entities. So even though the inline policy is attached and active, AWS doesn't show it as an attached entity in this column. So think of it like this. A managed policy is like a shared document on OneDrive or iCloud Drive. You can send it to multiple people and keep track of who is using it. That's why AWS shows a number next to it. It's keeping count of how many users or groups are using the document. But an inline policy is like a sticky note you place inside one person's laptop. It's meant only for a specific person or a group, and AWS doesn't track how many people are using it because it's not reusable only. So that's why this number shows as 0 for inline policies, and it's completely normal. The policy still works and applies to the group. It's just not counted the same way as the managed policies. And then Access Advisor. This tab is a feature in AWS IAM that helps you track which permissions are being used by your IAM users or groups and which ones are not. You typically see a list of AWS services the user or group has permissions to access, or the last time the service was accessed, or a summary of whether those permissions are actively being used or not. So by reviewing this data, you can identify unused permissions and clean them up. This not only helps with security, but also makes your IAM policies more efficient. Now, under the summary page, you would see the name you gave to your user group and when the group was created, and the unique identifier for your IAM user group, which is AWS ARN. ARN stands for Amazon Resource Name. This is usually used in writing policies that refer to specific IAM groups, in automation scripts, and when setting trust relationships or cross-account permissions. So just like we have a passport that uniquely identifies us globally, an ARN or Amazon Resource Name is used to uniquely identify AWS resources. Every AWS service assigns an ARN to its resources, and this ARN is used whenever we need to refer to or access that resource programmatically or in IAM policies. Okay. Now let's see if we can rename the IAM user group. For instance, I might want to add the project name along with the group name, like developers project A. Now you can rename an IAM user group, which makes it easier to update group names for organizational purposes or project names. To rename a user group, click on Edit in the summary box. Update the user groups to developers project A and click on Save Changes. You will see the name updated instantly. Now finally, as a part of cleanup process, let's delete the user group. When you delete a user group, the group itself is removed from the account. but the IAM users that were a part of the group are not deleted. However, any permissions associated with that group will no longer be available to the users unless they're granted through other means, such as directly or via other groups. To delete the user group, click on Delete at the top right corner, enter the name, and click Delete. Next, go to Users. In the left navigation pane, select all the users you wanted to delete and click Delete at the top right. Confirm it and click Delete Users. And here are some quick tips. Use IAM user groups to simplify permission management. Name groups clearly based on roles or responsibilities. And avoid assigning permissions directly to individual users. Instead, use IAM user groups for consistency and control. That's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and happy learning.